So we've been talking about the body and how interesting everything is, and something else that hasn't really been touched a whole lot is as far as the brain. And you have a left side and a right side. Well, with your eyes, it's the same side. So your left brain and left eye, right brain, right eye, and then your right side of your brain controls the left body. It flips. And the left brain controls the right side of um, the body. So on the left side of the brain is where you get impulse, anger, literal thought, verbal communication, hyperactivity, and repetition. On the right side, you get regulation, sadness, big picture thinking, social skills, and likes changes. So the way I see it, and I kind of broke it down because it talks about the right eye darkened in the Bible. But on the right side of the brain, it controls the left side of the body, responsible for various cognitive and motor functions. And they both have different motor functions as far as the cognitive and all of that. They both have their own thing that they do. Um, so, like if you're talking impulse, it's regulation versus anger and sadness. Your literal thought versus, you know, seeing in a box versus being able to see outside the box. It goes back and forth. So you have spatial reasoning and perception. You have creativity, and this is the right side. Creativity, imagination. I like to think of that as better put as faith. Intuition, which is discernment. Insight, which is being a seer, being able to see and understand, have insight. Emotional processing, being able to cast down evil seeds. Attention and focus. I like to think of it as on God's word and not of the world. Don't watch that stuff. All that's going to do is put some kind of seed of doubt, and you're to cast those down. So this is your right side, the right side of the brain. Motor function, control left side of body, facial recognition, music, and rhythm. And that has other functions as in sleep or dreaming and consciousness. Now, when you go to the left, you have language processing, which is understanding to speak or to write, logic and reasoning, math and analytical thinking, problem solving, sequential thinking, and attention focus. So, with the motor function, controls the right side of the body, and it's your fine motor skills, planning, and organizing movements. And other function is emotional regulation. So, and I know it talks about your fine motor skills, but that's skills. Um, it can be a different kind of referencing because your cerebellum, that is at the top of your spinal cord, um, or above your spinal cord, it does your fine tuned motor, like being able to pick something up with two fingers. And you can watch children, and if someone has a cerebellum stroke, you'll see where they can't do that fine motor things or writing with a pen. Um, but it's really neat to see children learn how to do that fine tuned motor and start working that part of the brain. So if you're working together, the right side and the left side, and not cut off, and if you have that left brain language and logic, and the right brain special reasoning with intuition, or better yet, discernment, the left brain preference of logical thinking, analytical skills, attention to detail, just as God. I mean, look at the details that was put very specifically about the temple. And then the right brain preference for creativity, intuition, spatial reasoning, and emotional expression. The balance of left and right brain, utilizing both hemispheres effectively. The head, Spirit of the Lord. It talks about him coming back with fiery eyes. Well, would that be when the two brains can both work together? that you utilize both hemispheres effectively, makes you wonder. I don't know. I just think the brain's fascinating. And I had once been told by an instructor that was a neurosurgeon and taught, and I got to go to a seminar, and he once said that they only know about maybe 10% of the brain. And if they tell you they know more than that, they're lying. Don't believe them. I really liked him because he really made things make sense. Being able to put things together and understand things and how the brain and different areas do different things. And depending on what kind of stroke you have, depends on what kind of symptoms. They'll do the obvious, but there's little things that are missed that are important that you can catch if you know what part of the brain that does. So that was what I have as far as the brain breakdown, as far as, as man says. But I just found it curious where it's talking about faith and being a seer and having discernment and casting down evil seeds and, attention and focus on God's word. How it talks about their right eye is darkened. Well, the right side of the brain is the right eye. So if it's darkened and they don't have this, how great is that darkness when both of them are put out and they're unable to utilize anything? Kind of reminds me of when the languages were confounded on the days of old. So if you don't have any of this and your brain doesn't function at all, kind of reminds me of the abode of the dead. You're breathing. You have, your breath that you breathe in and out, but you don't have the light in the eyes that's God's light that gives you life. You have darkened eyes, no life in them, just empty. No soul. We're warned to fear God that can destroy body and soul. Well, makes it make a whole lot more sense now.